Was Limbaugh said funny things, he said serious things, he said outrageous things, and sad things. He would often surprise you with what he said, but there was one thing who could be sure of was always said what he thought. Sometimes he said things people didn't want to hear, and sometimes he said things people knew in their hearts were true, but he didn't have but didn't have the courage to say themselves. Maybe they were afraid of sounding stupid, or that people would laugh at them. Maybe they were worried about offending someone, or not to be right. The thing is, they felt they had to keep silent, and so they were happy when Russ came along and said things others didn't dare to say. Russ didn't just say those things to himself or to his friends. He said them on the radio. He had the biggest, most popular radio show in America. Whatever he said, even when he was wrong, he made people think he was so influenced. Even the President of the United States had to take notice of what he was saying. Was Limbaugh believed in freedom above all, and that we are never free if we are not free to say what we think. This is why in our Constitution, freedom of speech is mentioned in the First Amendment, and it the first because if we cannot think freely and speak our mind, then we are not free at all. Ross is a descendant of an old Patriot family. His ancestors took part in the struggle for American independence. In the days of medieval for generations, his family lived in the town of Cape Coral on the banks of the great Mississippi River, not far from where Mark Twain's stories about Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn takes place. Was grandfather was Hudson Lambert Sr. was a warrior. In those days, Cape Grande was very much like a frontier town, and there were no fancy courthouses where the ones we see on TV. A warrior like Ross Sr. would often make his arms before a country judge who was sitting on the front porch of his home in a walking show. We can still see such things, but only in old western movies. Sr. had an impressive long career. He was a strong man, and he did not retire till he was until the age of 102. At the time, he was the oldest practiced warrior in the United States, maybe even the world. He was also a great patriot, as well as a politician. He served in Missouri House of Representatives. Was Sr.'s son, was father, was also a great patriot. He was a combat pilot in World War II. He was a big, overweight, round man. People call him Big Russ. He also had special talent for words. On a particular occasion, people would gather to hear him speak on politics or tell stories of great American heroes and patriots. He had a deep voice. He continued to fly small planes as a hobby, but as it grew bigger, it became harder and harder. The planes could still carry his weight, but eventually he was too big to fit in the cockpit. Thus, the nickname Big Russ suited him perfectly. Like his father, Big Russ was a warrior by trade. Big Russ, Mary Armstrong, who was from St. Augustine. She was a singer on the radio. She was a warm and kind woman. Everyone around her knew she loved animals. So now we can imagine what kind of house Russ and his brother David grew up in, one with a mother who was a former singer on the radio and a father who gave picture speeches. Even if no one knew it at the time, the pieces of the pictures were written there. Russ would also be on the radio, and he would use his voice to speak about pictures of what no one else could. Kids from the neighborhood loved to hang out in the Limbaugh house. In the basement, they had a pool table and a pinball machine. There was a bunch of kids hanging around, talking about sports through the pool, and sometimes playing pranks. But there were nothing compared to the pranks Jokes Russ would one day play on the radio in front of a next artist of whistles. Would want to be able to play a prank on the whole town or make halfway country laugh. Those were the old days of television, and the kids who used to hang out at the Limbaugh's home loved to see Big Russ dad talk back to the news as if people on TV could hear him. He would argue with them, tell them they didn't understand, and gave them his opinion on the intelligence. Let's say it was not very high opinion. Big Russ did brief and keep it rules to himself. He thought something he'd tell what he thought, whether we liked it or not. When Russ was a boy, he was less outspoken than his father, sometimes even a little shy. But like his father, he was overweight. As a result, he dreamed not about television, but about radio. If he were on the radio, he felt he could reach people without being seen and speak to the heart, without being present in that special way the only radio can. When he was 8 years old, he would listen to the radio while getting ready for school. The man on the radio sounded like he was having a great time. Russ knew that one day he wanted to be like that man. If we could go back in time to when Russ was 8 years old, tell him that one day he would be the biggest radio host in America, that he would become mixed radio. Well, he probably wouldn't have believed if someone came to you and told you that would be one day be the biggest star of all I know. Who dream job would we believe them? But who knows, maybe we will. as a teenager was work as a suicide boy at a local barber shop. This is how he earned some pocket money. He won a lot of things by listening to adults talk. He was determined not to wait till he would be a adult himself before he started pursuing his dream. At age 14, he pursued his parents to buy him a simple radio set, which he could play and broadcast at was inside the house. He would speak at the microphone. He was inside the house. He would speak in the microphone. His voice would come out of the receiver. Was couldn't get enough of it. In his mind, he was only a broadcaster. In a sense, it was true. Though Rosemary, his mother, was the only audience he had. He half listened to him in the kitchen, broadcasting from the next room while she cooked and did the dishes. But it was not long before his persistence paid off. At age 16, he got a part-time job as radio DJ on a small local station. He could play music and make jokes in the hours after school. He loved it so much that he started doing it on the weekends too. In school, he was not the most popular kid, nor was he athletic. Kids sometimes teased him about his weight, but on the radio, he had a deep, beautiful voice, and when he spoke, it was right. He was a mixture of friend, someone who could whisper secrets in her ear, and kids started listening. He was good. Radio made him a local celebrity. Was parents wanted him to pursue a more confident career and become a war with his father and grandfather, but was focused on his dream and held on to it for many years. He took whatever radio job he could find all across the country. Even if money was tight, he felt most at ease in the studio behind the microphone. He worked all kinds of jobs. He hosted morning shows where he played music for people driving to work. He took away night shifts speaking to people who couldn't sleep. He played music and he talked politics. He read announcements, reported on traffic, he joked, and he preached, entertained, he whispered, talk, or laugh out loud. He could join us talking or heckled. He spoke right or father or the wildest friend at school, a strict principal, or a stand-up comedian. He could take a rule with his words, befriend you, anger you, intrigue you, or make you laugh until you had tears in your eyes, and more people began to notice. Was made a wish of 35 tooth, which he thought nobody could deny. The first tooth was that freedom, organ and self-reliance made America great. Was believe that America would remain great as long as everyone could speak their mind, even if they were wrong. Because if you can't say what you think, humanity will never make new discoveries and will be able to develop and grow if we don't say new and sometimes converse things, if we don't allow ourselves to try things that turn out to be wrong. We just end up repeating what everyone already believes. After all, every new truth we discover was at one time considered a lie or a mistake. Once people thought the earth was flat. If we told them it was round, they think we were stupid. Long ago it was thought that demons cause sickness, and if we told people sickness caused by germs, even microscopic creatures that we can't even see, they would consider we crazy. But if people did not dare investigate such ideas, perhaps we would still be thinking the earth is flat. We try to cure illness by scaring them out of the body. Many years ago, when founders of America set out on great experiment of free society, people thought they were crazy. They thought a free society would become a jungle where everyone would be fighting against each other. But that did happen. A free society, people were happier and more productive. So America created a more comfortable way of life for its people. It is one of the richest, strongest, most cultural nations in the whole history of humankind, which is exactly what was reminding his actors. They should be fair walking. One of his other thoughts I understood. The naive truth was this: we should thank God for making we American, and instead of feeling guilty about it, help spread our ideals worldwide. Was it also thought if we were rough people, we should breathe in them, help them breathe in themselves. He breathed it. It was better to rely on yourself than depend on others. Was listeners had many opportunities to learn that lesson from him. Here one. When Ross started his newswriter, a listener named Dan called his program and said he wanted a newswriter but did have the $29.95 in cost to subscribe. Instead of giving him a free subscription, Ross told Dan he should raise money himself in a bake sale. It was a joke in the beginning, but the whistle started calling the son and say they would buy Dan's cakes if that would help. They too got the joke, and so Ross started hyping it up. Restaurants and chefs signed up to sell the cakes at the bake sale as advertisements. Even went up on how a billboard was to Dan's bake sale. In the end, 35,000 people came to the event, and town of food called Colorado was from himself flew in to host. Everyone had a good laugh and a good time. It proved profitable for many of the bakers, but Dan, believe it or not, did they bake enough cookies to sell. When he sold of cookies, he still far short of $29.95. He had to borrow cakes from other vendors to raise the total amount he needed. It seemed like Dan was not cut out to be a great businessman, but at least everyone had a good time. People ate, tasted cakes, and bakers made lots of money. It was like a big, goofy reflection. Was so successful and made him very rich. He bought his own private airplane. Ross had no children of his own, but he had nieces and nephews, and he had lots of wealth to give. And when where was wealth to give, were very, very rich. They can translate into wealth presents whole what, in fact. So when the hardest came along, he would pack his airplane with the greatest toys we can think of: toys, trains, cars, and planes, teddy bears, sports and camping gear, books, posters, bags, crowns, books, gadgets, jigsaw puzzles, comic books, Halloween costumes, Barbie dolls, Lego sets, and axe fixers, packs dancers with the smooth clothes and sneakers, bags, puppets, and funny t-shirts, as well as plenty of anything we could ever wish for, was like a flying toy store just for children and his family. Man, I like to have a rich uncle with his own jet airplane who just love to be a personal Santa. So next year the children of the whole Stinton Limbaugh family just couldn't wait for the holiday season to come for Uncle Russ to arrive at Cape Cod with an airplane full of toys. But there was also crowds on the hillside on October night took his one was stunned his whistle by telling them he was almost completely deaf. I can hear the radio, he said, in a sad and sober voice. I can hear television, I can hear music. I'm for all practical purpose deaf and happened in 3 months. Millions of listeners all across America were shocked and saddened. Were they going to lose their companion and friend, the man who made them laugh, who made them think, who could joy, hurt and prank them every day for me? So many wheels. But Ross was not about to give up. There was hope when a compact procedure could plant an electric device into his brain. We could, with the aid of a tiny microphone, help him hear again. It was Rick's gamble, but because there would be no going back if the surgery failed. He would lose even the little he could still hear, with one ear. But he decided to take the risks, and it paid off. So if we see pictures of Ross with metal plates connected to his head, we know what they are. It may say, in for instance, that can replace human ears. Well, we one day be able to help blind people see in the same way by connecting tiny cameras directly to their brains. Well, we be able to make people feel and touch with affect hands, where we be able to give moving back to hands and feet to people who have lost them. We probably will if we preserve our freedom of thought and freedom of speech. Because if people are not free to dream wild dreams, to try to fail, to make immense mistakes, they will never make discoveries and invent new things. With his hearing outfit restored, Ross was back behind his gold-plate microphone fierce as ever. In those days, Barack Obama was the president and was criticizing him over and over his show. By that time, Ross had become so influenced that the president and his staff felt they had to respond. The more they tried to deride Mark with Ross' arguments, the more divided Ross was with the fight. He said he would challenge the president on one-on-one debate. There was, of course, exalt president the debate of the president candidates or radio hosts, but West kept the joke going and bragged that he win the debate easily. He even offered to fight the president over the West private plane to debate him at the Third Command, which is what he called his studio at Florida. That way was said. He could save the president the public expense it would cost to fight Air Force One. Limbaugh was the voice for many people who felt as though they had no voice in a world where news media was dominated by a single point of view. Was why a breath of fresh air of many who did agree. He did unpartially and with humor. But he refused to be intimidated. But he didn't just express different views. He also taught people must rob a lesson that if we want to be free, we must have courage to speak our minds. For this, the next president of the United States, Donald Trump, gave was the highest honor of all. When he was older and was ill with cancer of joint session of two houses of Congress, and in the presence of the president and the first lady Mayor Trump was elected with President Medal of Freedom. If you look at the picture carefully, you would be able to see how proud was see that man who left so much a trace of redness in his eyes. As he looked on at senators and representative president standing up to clap in his honor, he could see that even those who did not agree with him, even those who had forced to oppose him, in apparent what he stood for, the freedom of all to speak their own minds, whether they would agree with them or not. And for this, many in our nations will always remember him as a great man. Was hometown had it already have come with him in Cape Crest, Missouri. There was a great big wall erected to shield the town from floods when Mississippi River overflowed. On this wall, there was a walkthrough, then life poster was Limbaugh, one with other well-known Missouri such as of Mark Twain, Alex Betty, Gabriel Jenner, John Paris, composer Scott Chopin, poet T.S. Eliot, dancer Jenner Walker, President Harry Truman, and many others. These girls, sons and daughters of the state of Missouri. If I was stopped by the town of Cape Girl, where Ross grew up, fixed that wall, I knew she was faithful and I do. With that smile of his, that reminder, don't be afraid to speak your mind. Was wrote best-selling books for children by American history, the Was River series. He also wrote the two best-selling books for adults. From 1992 to 1996, he hosted a television show. Was radio show was carried by many radio stations. It was also broadcast on the Armed Forces Radio Network, and American servicemen could hear it anywhere in the world. Victor's Bureau of Cape Cod offered a tour of the places where Ross grew up. As a 4-wheel child, Ross could defy the make and model of almost every car in the world. We used to refer to himself joking on the way that it was